A New Legacy is the sequel to 1996's Space Jam. This time it stars LeBron James instead of Michael Jordan, and LeBron James must go into Looneyville and play basketball with the Looney Tunes and prevent his son from being part of a team that's led by Rhythm, played by Don Cheadle, who is going to entrap everybody in this virtual world. Is this Superman 64 brought to life? I think it is.
Then there's no time to waste.
Now, for one, the trailers didn't really do anything for me. I really don't think we needed a sequel to Space Jam. I don't want to say Space Jam is a great movie, but what makes Space Jam good is not only the nostalgia, but the fact that it's simple in its premise. Michael Jordan gets sucked into Looney Tunes' world. The Looney Tunes are threatened. They have to play a basketball game to escape their fate. They recruit Michael Jordan, and he plays basketball with the Looney Tunes. Simple, short, concise in its premise. A New Legacy looked like it was going to add a lot more. It looked like it was going to suffer from sequelitis, where trying to go bigger equals better. And I'm not going to say that A New Legacy is better, because this is virtually inferior to the original Space Jam movie in almost every way possible. First of all, King Kong is a spectator. Godzilla is nowhere to be seen. That's just discrimination against lizard monsters. Where was Godzilla's invite? In all seriousness, though, I found myself quite bored with this film. There's some moments of fun, and it's mostly with the Looney Tunes, but everything involving LeBron's son and Rhythm, played by Don Cheadle, I just felt was very flat. I'm not asking for a Space Jam movie to be an Oscar winner or anything. I just want to have some fun and watch a basketball game with the Looney Tunes. That happens, but even in the basketball game, for the first half of the basketball game, I was very bored, and surprisingly, it had nothing to do with LeBron himself. The biggest strength is that LeBron is just playing himself, similar to Michael Jordan in the first Space Jam movie. It's not like Shaquille O'Neal in those 90s movies kept making, where he was actually trying to act and he wasn't playing Shaq. If he was playing Shaq in those movies, it would have worked, but he was actually trying to act. Just take a look at Steel. Shaq as a superhero. Does not work, but Michael Jordan worked in Space Jam 1 because he's playing himself, a basketball player. LeBron works in this movie because he's playing himself, a basketball player. But I think what also hinders LeBron in this movie is that he's surrounded by a script that calls for his son in the movie to have enormous daddy issues, and LeBron to be portrayed as the shitty-ass father who thinks that the best thing he could do for his son is just make him play basketball and nothing else matters. Wow, what a solid father and son story. It follows every single cliche that we've seen of that story. There's not even a new twist. As I said, this doesn't have to be an Oscar winner or make me think outside the box all that much. But seriously, can you add a new twist, a new flavor to this type of story already? Like, I'm sick and tired of seeing the same exact thing. This movie falls into the trap that I was worried it was going to from the trailers, and that is that this movie really commercializes Warner Brothers products. I was just watching a gigantic fucking commercial for Warner Brothers properties and franchises and IPs, almost as if they're jealous of how other studios have handled their release strategies and other certain strategies going forward, that Warner Brothers is like, hey, let's just throw all of our IPs onto the screen all at one point, like we did in Ready Player One, because it works so well in Ready Player One, but this time it's because we need attention. We royally screwed up with the whole day and date HBO Max thing, and we pissed off directors, and we didn't handle the Snyderverse all that well, and I'm not a fan of the Snyderverse. I'm very mixed on Zack Snyder's DCEU movies, but I will say, it is a travesty that The world that this movie sets up, the serververse, was given more time and effort than the actual Snyderverse. It's just a gigantic advertisement for Warner Brothers because they just want attention. That's how this movie came across to me, and I knew that that's exactly what this movie was going to be when I first saw those trailers, and it was what I was worried it was going to be, and I didn't want it to be that. And unfortunately, it was. There was no escaping seeing every single goddamn Warner Brothers product. Like fucking Agent... What's the other agent in the Matrix? Not Agent Smith. Is it Agent Johnson? He's just there in the crowd in the basketball game, just enjoying life. The Wicked Witch from The Wizard of Oz is there. I mentioned King Kong already, but the fucking giant ape is there watching a basketball game. It just got distracting. Like, yeah, sure, cameos like that can be fun, and they can be cool little Easter eggs to throw into a movie. It works in something like Ready Player One because that is a video game world and those video game characters are actually interacting with other video game characters. Sure, you can make the argument that in A New Legacy that they are actually sucked into what could be considered a video game world since LeBron's son in the movie likes to play video games and wants to create video games, but LeBron's just like, no, son, basketball, because you can be the GOAT like me. And I got yelled at for having a Game Boy when I was in gym class. What was probably second grade, but a 13 to 14-year-old was playing a 7-year-old. So I understand that that argument could be made. I didn't have that connection with this movie because it seemed like it was trying to focus more on the Looney Tunes world, and then this video game aspect was just kind of a background to serve a story and a plot points that it never felt interconnected with all the other worlds. They were trying to connect with Looney Tunes world, and none of the other worlds felt connected to Looney Tunes world. Like, we're going here and there, and we're trying to get all of the other Looney Tunes together, and you just see, like, cartoon Superman with the Justice League being pissed at one of the Looney Tunes because they stopped a runaway train. I don't know, man. I could be looking too far into it, but for me, it worked more in Ready Player One because that world was already set up. We knew exactly what we were going to get. When we were watching Ready Player One, we know we're gonna see video game characters, some Easter eggs from other video games. It's going to feel like a video game, power-ups and all that. I mean, that stuff is in here, but I feel as if it's to the detriment of the world and the story itself. It's just serving as a plot device. I mean, it does in Ready Player One, but Ready Player One actually, it needed that. This movie didn't need that. And because of that, the first half of the basketball game is pretty boring because the Looney Squad is down by a large margin, and by large, I mean a large margin, but you know they're going to come back and win. You're rooting for them. You know something's going to happen. You know the tides are going to turn somehow. You know there's going to be something that happens with LeBron's son. It's some of the most predictable storytelling I've ever seen. I know people are probably going to come at me and be like, dude, it's a Space Jam movie. You're supposed to have some fun. And yeah, I did have some fun. Anytime the Looney Tunes were on screen, yeah, I was laughing most of the time, especially with Bugs Bunny and some of the hijinks with the other Looney Tunes. It was pretty fun, and the second half of the basketball game was actually fun because it was the Looney Tunes up to their actual hijinks. So when the Looney Tunes were acting like themselves, I was having fun. It's just the rest of the movie that focuses on LeBron's son and this algae rhythm villain played by Don Cheadle. I was just left bored because it had none of the charm that the Looney Tunes bring to this movie. LeBron interacting with the Looney Tunes and the Looney Tunes themselves really saved this movie from being a complete train wreck. They were the most interesting parts of the movie and the most fun. And I was worried about LeBron James being in this movie because I said to myself, is he going to try and act or is he just going to act like himself? And luckily, he acts like himself. An actor LeBron James is not, and he completely understood that. Just like how Michael Jordan understood that in the first one. This movie just took it to a whole different level that it didn't have to. For some reason, sequels to classic films feel like they have to be bigger, and by going bigger, the filmmakers feel as if that makes it better, and it doesn't. The first one is so much better on its simple premise alone, and the first one's not even a great movie, but what makes it great is the nostalgia and that simple premise that it doesn't do too much. It's just Michael Jordan trying to save the Looney Tunes from eternal damnation, and in order to do so, they have to win a basketball game. In this, you have the same basic premise, but there's just too much going on in the background to the point where it's distracting. It felt like a 2-hour-long advertisement for HBO Max or something. And that was what I was worried this movie was going to be. I'm going to say, if you're like me, you're going to enjoy Space Jam: A New Legacy with stale popcorn. I have a feeling everybody's going to say that this is better than the first one and that it's a lot of fun. If you had fun with this movie, that's fine. For me, it was just everything I didn't want it to be. And I wanted it to be a more simple in its approach like the first one. But if you had fun with this movie, do you. That's completely your opinion. And I could be looking too far into this movie as a movie about LeBron James playing basketball with the Looney Tunes. But that's how I felt about this movie. It's way too commercialized, and it didn't need to be. It needed to take the approach of the first one and expand it a little bit, but not to the extent that this movie did. So if you guys did like Space Jam: A New Legacy, which of the two Space Jams do you prefer? Space Jam 1 or Space Jam: A New Legacy? Drop me some feedback in the comment section below. I'll leave my link to my website in the description below as well. You guys are the best. Thank you for watching. My name is Alex Madden, and I'll see you at the movies somewhere.